Today in our 2018 Ford Escape, we're going to be taking a look at and showing you how to install the eTrailer Class 3 Custom Fit Trailer Hitch Receiver, part number E98866. So here's what our hitch is going to look like once we have it installed. The cross tube is going to be hidden behind the bumper, and all we're going to see is that receiver tube sticking out. It's a Class 3 hitch, means it's going to give us that 2-inch by 2-inch receiver tube opening and have a wide variety of accessories available that we can mount up. The way we're going to mount all of our accessories is through the hitch pin hole here on the side, and it is going to accept a standard 5/8 pin and clip. Now these are not included in the kit, but you can pick them up here at etrailer.com along with locking devices to keep your accessories secure. And our safety chain connection points are going to be a loop cell welded to the bottom, and you can see we're not going to have too much trouble getting most size hooks on or off. As far as the weight capacity goes, our hitch is going to have a 350-pound tongue weight, which is the maximum downward force of the receiver tube, along with a 3,500-pound gross trailer weight rating, which is the amount it can pull, including the trailer and everything we have loaded on it. Now it is rated for use with weight distribution systems as well, and that's going to be a separate component that's going to be mounted on your trailer. But that's going to bump the tongue weight up to 500 pounds and the gross trailer weight rating up to 5,000 pounds. And with all those numbers in mind, you should always double check your Escape's owner's manual and never exceed the manufacturer's recommended weight. Our eTrailer hitch is going to have a flat black carbide finish to it, so it is going to look a little bit different than most hitches that have that really high gloss finish. The carbide finish is going to hide scratches and dirt a lot better, and it's just going to kind of blend in a little bit since it has that flat black look. I'd like to give you a few measurements, and that's going to help you whenever you're looking at accessories for your new hitch, such as a ball mount, a bike rack, or even a cargo carrier. From the center of the hitch pin hole to the outermost edge of the bumper, it's going to be right about 4.5 inches. That measurement is going to come in handy when you're looking at folding accessories to make sure you have enough clearance and that it's not going to come in contact with the rear bumper. From the ground to the inside top edge of the receiver tube opening, it's going to be right about 14 inches. That measurement is going to come in handy when you're looking at ball mounts to make sure you can find the appropriate rise or drop to match up to your trailer. So now that we've seen what our hitch looks like and gone over some of the features, let's show you how to get it installed. To begin our installation, we're going to want to come to the back of our Escape. Now this is going to be an optional thing, but it is going to make it a little bit easier. We can take this bottom panel off. In order to do that, we're going to have several screws at the bottom that we're going to have to pull out. You're going to want to grab a T25 Torx bit, and we can pull these screws out. Now when you pull the last one out, you want to be careful because the rear sensor for the hatch is attached to that. But we're just going to let this hang right now. We don't have to fully pull it out. So we'll just set it away, out of the way. Then on the inside edge, on each side, we're going to have these push pins. There's going to be a little notch. We'll take a flathead screwdriver, come into that notched area, pop out the center section, then we could pull the rest of the push pin out. Now the inside of the panel, just behind it, on the outside of our exhaust tips, we're going to have these metal clips that are holding it to the outside panel. So you just take a flathead screwdriver, we're going to push in on that tab at the same time that we pull out, and that metal clip will come out. So we'll remove the other one on the other side as well. Then we'll come back to the outside, and starting in the center, we're just going to kind of pull outward, undoing the clips, and we can work our way across, releasing them, and pull the panel out. Then we can set that panel aside where it won't get damaged. Now we're going to need to lower our exhaust down. On each side of our muffler, we're going to have a hanger, and there's going to be 2 bolts holding it in place. You can take a 13mm socket and we'll pull those out. Now just forward on the driver's side of where we remove the hanger, we're going to have a nut holding our heat shield in place. And we'll go ahead and pull that out, grab a 10mm socket and remove that nut. Now we are going to have to trim a little bit of our heat shield here. So to make it easier on us, I'm just going to kind of pull it down and bend it away and try to stay along that bend that it's already on. making it a little bit easier to cut along our heat shield here. On our heat shield here, we're just going to come forward of where our bolts went that were mounting our exhaust hanger, and we're going to cut straight up to about the bend of where the heat shield meets the side of the frame rail there, and then we're going to cut back, cutting that entire section out. Once you have that area trimmed out, you just want to make sure that the bottom of the frame rail is open, and we can put our heat shield back and we'll re-secure it with the nut. You're going to want to trim the passenger side heat shield the same way so it exposes the same area on the frame rail. Now right where we cut that heat shield out, we're going to have this large hole here. That's going to be our access hole in order to get all of our hardware in place. So we're going to have a spacer block, which you can see that easily fits into the hole, but our carriage bolts, you can see that it just barely doesn't fit, so we're going to need to enlarge that just a little bit. So I'm going to take a file, and I'm going to enlarge that hole so that I can get my hardware in place. And once you file it a little bit, you're going to want to periodically check to see if you can get your hardware in. Once you can, you're going to want to do that to the other side as well. It's never a good idea to leave exposed metal on your vehicle, so I'm going to come back with some spray paint. I'm going to spray paint where I filed down. That way, hopefully, it'll prevent any kind of rust or corrosion from building up. We're going to have a total of 3 holes that we're going to have to put hardware in. One being the access hole, one towards the back of our vehicle on the bottom of the frame, and then another one that's going to be on the side of the frame here. So we'll start with the one on the side of the frame. We'll take our pull wire, I'm going to put a little bit of a bend in it. We'll feed the coiled end in through the side of the frame, and we're going to be feeding it towards our access hole. Now you want to be careful if you do reach in to try to reach the cable. You want to be careful not to cut your hand, but if you can reach the coiled end of the wire, you're going to want to pull that out through the access hole. And then I'm going to bend each end a little bit, that way it'll prevent it from falling back in. We don't have to worry about the wire falling out either way. We're going to take one of our square hole spacer blocks, we'll feed it over the end of the coiled wire, and we'll take our carriage bolt and we're going to thread it on. You're going to want to feed each piece in one at a time. So we'll feed in our block, and we'll push in our carriage bolt. We're going to pull on the wire until our bolt comes through out the side of the frame. Now you want to leave that pull wire attached so we don't have to worry about it falling inside the frame. We're going to repeat that for this other hole behind our access hole. Now in order to get our last piece of hardware into our access hole, it's going to be a little bit different. We'll start with our pull wire, we'll slide our square hole spacer block over, then we'll thread on our carriage bolt. And then we're going to feed our carriage bolt in first, followed by the spacer block, and then we're going to pull it down so that bolt engages that block. Now that we have all of them installed over here, we're going to put all the same hardware in the same locations on the other side. So with our hardware all in place, before we put our hitch up, you want to make sure that you take the bolt that's in the side of the frame and you feed it back in, but again, leaving that pull wire attached. That way we can get everything in place. Now when we go to lift our hitch in place, you want to make sure you put your pull wires in through the correct holes. We're going to be using the very one that's going to be closest to the back, and then the middle one for our hardware. These 2 other holes will be used later on. So with an extra set of hands, we're going to lift our hitch into position. You just want to feed your pull wires through. Go over the exhaust. We're going to feed our pull wires through the correct holes. You want to make sure you get the side one through, going from the inside, going out. And we'll lift our hitch up. And we'll pull the bolts that are going through the side of our frame back out. And that'll help hang the hitch and support it, making sure that the rest of our hardware is going through the bottom. So we can remove the pull wire from the bolt going through the side of the frame. We're going to take a flange nut. I'm just going to loosely put this on so we don't have to worry about the hitch falling off. And we're going to use that same hardware for the other remaining pieces. So with our hardware loosely in place, you can see that those other two holes are going to line up with the holes that were in the frame for our exhaust bracket here. So we can rotate that up a little bit, and they're going to provide us with new bolts. They're a little bit longer. We'll take a flat washer. We'll lift our exhaust up just enough so we can get the bolts started in by hand. And then we'll put the rest of them in on both sides. Now I'm going to come back with an 11/16 socket and tighten up my hitch hardware. Then we'll come back with a 13mm socket and tighten up our exhaust hangers. I'm going to come back with a torque wrench and that 11/16 socket and torque all my hitch hardware down to the specified amount in the instructions. You want to make sure you repeat that for all of your hardware. With our hitch in place, we can bring our tailgate sensor back down towards the hitch. That way it'll line up the holes we need to. We'll just rest it on the hitch, then we can take our panel, we'll line it back up. We can start pushing all those fasteners back in place. And we can take that sensor, make sure it lines up behind, and we can start putting all the fasteners back in underneath. That'll finish up your look at the etrailer Class 3 custom fit trailer hitch receiver, part number E98866 on our 2018 Ford Escape.